Hi, everybody. This is Slava Kurilyak at Purdue, and I want to thank you for joining me on this live stream as we discuss the applications of artificial intelligence technologies in the food industry. Let's backtrace. Why are we here? Most companies struggle to innovate. At Purdue, I help companies to innovate faster by developing custom software solutions, specifically artificial intelligence solutions, to help them drive impact, save time, and crush their competition. I want to go over some of the most commonly asked questions from the community about how you can use AI technologies in the food and beverage industry. And I remind everyone that this is a live stream, which means you can ask free to direct those questions about the food industry or AI, and I am more than happy to answer. I want to thank everyone for joining, and I am glad to get started. So let's take some community questions, and the first question will be, are we slowly killing away what is nature as we focus on AI foods, rather artificial foods, artificial hormones, and now AI? Teresa on Quora asks this question. Teresa, we are not killing nature. We are modifying nature to our liking. Nature has many strengths, and yet it has many weaknesses. And as the most intelligent species on planet Earth, we are simply modifying nature to meet our goals. And a good example of how we're doing this is, imagine we want to modify or better control carbon dioxide. Well, we can now plant trees and we can use AI technologies to facilitate this process, right? Where should we plant? How many trees should we plant, etc. Another example is, imagine as a human species, we want to better predict climate change. Well, we can now use AI technologies, including machine learning or deep learning, to develop forecasting models or predictive models to accomplish this. These are just a few examples of how we're able to modify nature in order so that we can have a better environment. The next question comes from Faith on Quora, which is, can AI be used to improve flavors in food? Absolutely. This is a very hot topic for companies who are working on the design and development of the food processing industry, and being able to create a new flavor profile, being able to find the best flavor profile is one of the key aspects of research and development. Companies today are investing millions of dollars to find out what is that perfect balance of sourness, taste, and the palate that is created as a result of playing around with chemicals and playing around with ingredients. Being able to answer this question means that companies are able to generate massive revenue and also reduce costs for their operations. The question then arises, how is this possible? How can AI be used to improve flavor? Well, flavor is nothing more than a taste or a character profile once food is put in the mouth. And what that means is that AI systems need to better understand taste, and how this is done is simply by looking at data, right? So imagine a company is able to generate data with respect to the flavor profile, and that flavor profile is, for example, a specific type of a pizza and its different flavor profiles of its ingredients. Now the company must collect data and get feedback from its users so that it can actually create a map or a representation of the difference between the flavor and the response to that flavor. And with enough data, companies can now create a relationship between what does the food taste like and what does the consumer say about that food. And this is one way that you can improve flavors, is to create this digital map, if you will. And AI technologies are now creating these links or these associations between flavors and the consumer's response. The next question is from Vijay on Quora. Vijay asks, can AI reduce food waste? Absolutely. There are three ways AI is able to reduce food waste. The first is being able to detect it. The second is being able to predict it. And the third is able to prevent it. So detection is just a matter of, do we see a food rottage? Do we see that a food is going to waste? If that's the answer, then AI systems are able to surface those insights, and companies are able to pull items off the shelf and make decisions based on what is already observed from the system. The second way is being able to prevent food waste. Well, here now we have to look for, I would say, more subtle elements or data points that allow us to figure out if a particular food is about to waste. And the third is predicting food waste. Again, they're similar, but there are distinct elements between the businesses organizations may have. So predict is another key element, and perhaps we're now looking at things that are not clearly visible on the food item itself. Perhaps we're now looking at the food temperature, the food color, and perhaps we're looking at the food shelf life in smaller micro segments, if you were. And all that data is now being collected by AI systems, and now we can analyze this data, and we can now predict if food is about to go to waste. I remind everyone that this is a live broadcast, so if you are joining this live stream, feel free to ask questions, and I'm more than happy to answer them during this live stream. Next question I see on the community is from Joey on Quora. How are food companies applying AI to their search for new flavors? Joey, thanks very much. This is related to the previous question that I answered. The context is, how do we figure out a new flavor profile? Well, as I remind you, flavor is simply a taste, and that is really a perception of the consumer. And so flavor is primarily determined by the chemical senses in our gustatory or olfactory systems. And being able to search for these flavors really is a matter of using the right technology, using the right algorithm to find something different, something new. One way to accomplish this is to use a specific set of algorithms that are called generative models. Generative models are one of the latest tools, if you were, by machine learning practitioners, by data science teams that allows companies to explore new data that did not exist before. So think of these models as surfacing new data or new insights that the model has never seen before. So this is not using the traditional approach. This is not using supervised learning or traditional methods of gathering data sets. This is where companies are now using a new algorithm called generative model. And this particular approach allows companies to create new flavor profiles from scratch. This is a key insight that I think is useful. The next question that I see is, what are the application of AI in the food industry? Naveed on Core asked this question. Naveed, this really is a complex question that has many moving parts, but I want to give you as much value as I can in answering this question. So what I'll do is I will simply share with you my screen, and then I will show you a blog post that I wrote on the topic, and I think this is quite useful, and feel free to read more in detail. So let me jump and make sure you can see what I see. And hopefully this shows up on your screen right about now. And I am more than happy to walk you through sort of the at least part of this particular answer. So previously, I have written a blog post on this topic, how you leverage AI technology to solve food problems. And one way to accomplish this is to think about some of the higher level goals, right? So like, as a society, what are we here to do? Like, what is our mission if we are to create a better world, right? And there are three ideas that came to my mind when I asked myself this question earlier. The first being, how can we achieve zero hunger, right? Zero hunger is a an altruistic goal. This is a goal that allows individuals to create a better world, a world where less people are affected by malnutrition. It's a world where people are able to source and get access to food at the right moment, at the right time. And so if we can reduce world hunger, if we can achieve this vision of having zero hunger, then I think it's a worthwhile goal to pursue. The second idea that comes to my mind when it comes to using AI technology is being able to respond to the global demand for food stuff or food products. This is a key challenge that many companies and organizations around the world face when they're dealing with the food value, the value chain of sort of the market. How can you use data in the food supply distribution? How can that data give you insights to better predict where food needs to be delivered, how you need to deliver it, et cetera, et cetera. So being able to solve value chain problems using AI technology is critical. And if we are aiming to solve this problem, then we must really aim to solve the global food demand problem. And the third idea that comes to my mind is ensuring that the food supply is stable. And this is a very powerful problem to solve, rather powerful question to ask, and that if we can solve this problem, we're now able to create a more stability for the world, right? And one way is that we can ensure that food is always available. Another thing is that we can predict where that availability is, so that we can make sure that there's always food delivered at the right place at the right time. So being able to ensure a food stable supply is critical to answering some of the other questions. The other element that I wanted to mention, since I'm discussing this particular blog post, is there are many AI applications in the food industry, and I list many here on the blog post. So what I encourage everyone to do is to read this blog post. What I'll do now is I'll share with you the link to this blog post in the chat, and you are more than happy to click on it and actually read and familiarize yourself with some of its applications. In the meanwhile, what I'll do is I'll go back into my particular live stream, and hopefully the link that I've shared with you gives you insights. In the meanwhile, I will continue answering your questions. For those who are joining, feel free to ask a question. I am more than happy to answer it in real time. And let's move on. The next question is, what are the top 5 ways that AI is revolutionizing food technology? Benjamin and Cora asked this question, and this is an excellent question, and I'm more than happy to answer it. Let me give you some context here. So food industry consists of 5 major parts, right? So you have the shopping, the eating, the production, distribution, and manufacturing. So really, we're aiming to solve problems in one of these domains. And the question arises, what can we do? Well, there are many ways that we can improve the shopping experience, for example, right? If we can surface insights to organizations, to the retailers who are selling food, well, perhaps we can tell them what food they should sell to the specific customer. If we're going after the eating industry, well, maybe we need to present the right food to the right time when the person is hungry. If we're looking at the production, how can we improve the efficiency of the production process? And there are ways to use AI for that. Distribution and manufacturing are also related. So the 5 ways are really aiming to solve specific problems within the examples that I just gave you. So if you are thinking about using AI, I would say start with the business goal, right? What are you aiming to achieve? Like, are you looking to improve revenue? Are you looking to reduce cost? Are you looking to save time? And after you figure out the goal, then you start to work and backwards, you start to think, okay, what technology may be useful here? Am I looking to create a data set? In this case, you're perhaps looking at a supervised learning type of algorithm. Or perhaps you want to generate something new from scratch that did not exist. Here you want to use a generative model. It really depends on your specific use case, but I definitely encourage everyone to start with the business goal then work towards technology. The next question that I see comes from user on Quora. How will AI impact the food industry? Yes. User, this is a very, very interesting time we live in. COVID-19 has created a world where everything seems to be changing and everything is no longer the same. So the question then arises, what is COVID-19 really doing that is impacting the food industry? And I know COVID-19 has exposed a major flaw. That flaw is that we are impacted, the humans are impacted by this virus, this coronavirus, and we in this food supply chain are the weakest link. Now, there are ways that we can move past this point. AI technology at its basic is able to solve. But I think the trend emerges from COVID is that we must create two types of solutions. Number one, we must create contact-free solutions. And number two is what we must create germ-free solutions. Contact-free is where we as humans are not touching the food itself. Germ-free means we are not transferring germs into the food itself. And both solutions, both trends are very, very profitable today. Companies are now able to leverage AI technologies to solve these types of problems. And where companies are not able to achieve this altruistic sort of contact-free, germ-free vision of the future, now companies do the next best thing. And the next best scenario is achieving contact-less and germ-less. These are the different types of solutions that companies are aiming to achieve using AI. So how is this possible? Well, again, the value chain consists of many different steps, and AI can come in any given one of these elements, right? Whether we're talking about design, source, making, delivering, use, and actually six and return or end of life. So again, design, source, make, deliver, use, return. AI really comes in and answers these questions. So if, for example, if we are sourcing material, then contact-free solutions for sourcing may mean that we're having to use robots. It may mean we're using specific robotics coupled with deep learning technology to better handle the food and sort of take it from point A to point B. And the distribution can now be fully automated using robotics. This is just a glimpse of what's possible using AI technology. And let's move forward. I know that there are many questions that we can address, but I also want to remind everyone who is joining that you are more than welcome to ask a question, and I will love to answer it in real time. Next question from Mihi on Quora is, how will AI take over fast food restaurants? Yes. Fast food restaurants have a simple goal. Their goal is speed. How fast can we deliver food to our customers? And so this is a perfect use case for AI technology, right? AI will be fundamentally used to save time. Fast food industries want solutions faster, and AI is the perfect fit for that. AI can be used to cook food faster, to predict the consumer's preferences for food, to predict their shopping habits, to serve food, and ultimately to target messaging to the right person at the right time. So really, AI technology is aiming to save companies and organizations time, and the specific algorithm is really accomplishing the business goal. But let's for sort of the example's sake, take a scenario where a company wants to cook a burger faster. How can you use AI technology for this? Well, think of the following. What do you need to do to make a burger? Perhaps you need to unwrap the burger. Perhaps you need to put it on the grill. Perhaps you need to flip the burger. So these three steps can now be automated using robotics. Imagine a system that is able to detect in real time using computer vision technology what is the robot looking at. Imagine a robotic arm that's able to take a hamburger from a package, from a container, unwrap it, put it on the grill, turn on the grill, flip the burger. These are just some of the steps that robots can now do automatically without having the person do it. And that means that companies are now able to leverage robots. They're now able to leverage AI technology to save themselves time. And the time savings really is not from the perspective of efficiency, of figuring out when to flip, et cetera, because people are quite intelligent, quite intuitive. They can figure out that stuff as well. The time savings comes from the fact that robots can be run 24/7. Human beings need breaks, they need washing breaks, they need time off. And so a human at their best is able to work 7-8 hours. A robot is able to work 24 hours. So the efficiency is just not there with a person. The efficiency is one of the biggest drivers for reducing time and therefore reducing costs for organizations. The other element to consider is, why would a fast food restaurant want to go down the path and use AI technology? Well, it becomes a matter of cost, right? Imagine hiring an employee, paying them a minimum wage, paying them just so they can flip burgers. Well, now that is going to have a business cost, right? And perhaps it's 30,000, 40,000 American dollars per year. Imagine that company is now approached by Produvia or somebody else who is now able to say, look, we can create a solution that will cost you $20,000 to operate on an annual basis, and now you're saving $10,000 per year without having to employ an individual. You're now able to employ an AI solution, and this is one of the key elements to why businesses are looking into AI technologies today. Great. So the next question, Mihi, is, this is a question by Sri on Quora. How is AI used for flavor and food product development? Food product development or design is a crucial step in the food production process. So food companies today need to explore their creativity, need to be more innovative, and being able to design, being able to develop the right food so that it goes into the market and creates massive value for the company is one of the key strategies that allows companies to innovate. And innovative products are actually the result of experimentation. So the real question is, how does a company experiment and experiment better? And experimentation today can be now done with AI technology. So I'll give you a few examples. Imagine we wanted to create a new food product from scratch or a new flavor profile. Again, we're going back to this idea of using generative networks. Generative models, rather, are one of the best ways to accomplish this. And I'll give you 3 examples of what that looks like or sounds like so you can better do your research. The first way is to use an autoencoder, AE for short. The second way is to use a generative adversarial network, or a GAN, GAN. And the third way is to use a variational autoencoder, VAE, VAE. And these are abbreviations that you will find online, and you can do a Google search to figure out what they mean. And really, the intention here is to show you a few examples of what a generative model looks like. And what it does is it takes in data and it's able to create something new. So for example, imagine you wanted to find the best possible pizza for your brand. This is a goal you have. You want to generate revenue with a new pizza product. One way to accomplish this is to create new pictures of pizza, right? Imagine being able to create not just one picture, but hundreds of pictures of pizza every single day. How much value would that bring to your business? Generating or experimenting on different pizza designs is critical if you want to figure out what pizza will sell faster, sell more. Well, now, if you're able to click a button to create a new product design, new pizza, this is going to save you time and money. And now generative models are able to accomplish this, right? Another way to accomplish your goal of creating something from scratch is not to focus on images, but instead to focus on text. right? Now we're talking about using a different type of model, and these are called transformers. I'll give you 3 examples of a transformer. Number 1, we're talking about a bidirectional encoder representation from transformer called a BERT for short. Number 2, we're talking about a RoBERT-A, that's RoBERT-A. And number 3, we're talking about a GPT-2 and more recently released GPT-3. And these abbreviations you can Google and find more information about. I am simply referencing them so you can better understand what to search for. Transformers are an amazing way for companies to generate text that did not exist before. Imagine clicking a button and imagine being able to generate a new recipe from scratch. How awesome would that be? How much value would that bring to your organization? And this is now possible to accomplish using a transformer. Again, if you're aiming to generate images, feel free to use something called a generative model. If you're aiming to create a text from scratch, use a transformer. Hopefully that gives you insight, and I'm more happy to answer additional follow-up questions if you have any. The next question is, Michael asks on Quora, how can AI help farmers grow more food with less resources? Yes, this is a question that is aiming to address farmers, right? So the question is, imagine you have a plantation, and imagine that plantation is allowing you to generate income, generate revenue. The question is, how can you improve the output of that plantation? How can you improve the efficiency of this plantation? Well, there are many ways, right? Food, like people, requires certain nutrients, right? We're talking about water, certain soil nutrients, and most importantly, light. And one way that farmers are using AI technology today is they're simply gathering data on all 3 aspects. They're gathering data on how much water they're feeding into their plantations. They're gathering data on how much nutrients, soil nutrients they're providing. And lastly, how much UV light they are exposing to their plants or flowers or different types of food stuffs. So the question of how AI technology is being used is really a matter of what data are farmers collecting. If they're collecting more data, that allows them to create better solutions using AI technologies. And the way that these technologies would work is simply by gathering data and then creating A/B relationships to that data, right? Imagine being able to understand, how is the food intake of that plantation affecting the output of the sort of end of the season. And so the more data that these farmers are collecting, the more it's able to drive and generate insights for their consumers. So these are just some of the ways that the food industry is benefited from AI. And I want to wrap up with a few closing thoughts. I want to thank you for joining this live stream. I know we went through a lot of questions from the community. Some questions are quite related, and I do realize that. Having said that, AI technology is a transformative technology. Businesses around the world need to use AI technologies to be more competitive, right? Most companies today struggle with innovation, with being more innovative. And so using AI technologies allow companies to save time, generate revenue, and cut costs. And I remind you that my name is Slava. I work as the founder, CEO at Produvia, where we partner with companies around the world to accelerate the development of AI technologies so that our clients can crush their competition. If you are interested to partner with me or my agency, feel free to schedule a discovery call, and I am more than happy to talk with you so we can figure out, how AI can crush the food industry competition. And I am, again, thanking you for joining this live stream. I look forward to seeing you next time. Feel free to subscribe to this live stream. I will create more content over time, and I definitely will be back and focus on other types of, let me just make sure everyone can see this message. I will make sure that I create more content for everyone to gain value from, because my goal is simple. I want to help you to crush your sales quota. I want to help you to crush your revenue quota. I want to help you to crush your competition. And you can do that using AI technology. You can do that using the combination of food and AI. Thank you for watching this live stream. I look forward to seeing you next